Bill Nye.
Oh, here we go.
The new term, Bill Nye, the anti-science, kind of a religious zealot slash maybe a little bit of a piece of shit guy. He came out and he had some statements to make that to me were about as scary as you can think, coming from someone who claims to be a scientist or certainly is held out as though he's carrying the torch for modern science. See if you can spot it.
We've got an extraordinary situation here in the United States where climate change deniers have managed to introduce the idea that some uncertainty, say 2%, plus or minus 2%, about the temperature of the ocean is somehow equivalent to plus or minus 100%. Now, everybody, science is political. We use politics to decide where to invest our intellect and treasure.
What? And the thing, we'll get to why that's incorrect and why that's corrosive to the very fabric of science in a second, but this is also a reason why people are tired of cable news, people in our generation, because no one on that panel, they didn't have a real scientist on that panel who could just say exactly what everyone's thinking.
Is somehow equivalent to plus or minus 100%. Now, everybody, science is political. We use politics to...
That's it. I just want to see one person. Science is political. Incorrect. First, let me draw your attention to the definition of science. The intellectual and practical activity encompassing the systematic study of the structure and behavior of the physical and natural world through observation and experiment. Some would say that's the opposite of politics. Yeah. Some would say the purpose of science is to exist in a prism regardless of societal circumstance. Some would say that's the main reason for science. That's kind of the through line. But here's the thing, he's right. Science, he's saying what we've been saying for a long time and we've been excoriated for saying. That, listen, no one's saying there isn't climate change. But if you question the idea that man-made climate change is so catastrophic the government needs to step in, you're labeled a denier. And we've talked about how you need to get in line with the current scientific thinking if you want the money. Science has become political as far as where the funding goes. It's horrible if that's the case, but that is the case. Case in point, let's go to President Barack Obama. He openly said that he made climate change a top priority. Now, here's an interesting note. Overall research and development funding under Barack Obama actually decreased. But simultaneously, funding for climate change programs went up. So that means when overall funds were going down for research and development, people who were studying climate change, in the way, by the way, that stepped in line with President Obama's narrative, made more money. That's what we've talked about before. We were saying, you're a conspiracy theorist. If you say, I want to study, I don't know, the growing patterns of cedarwood trees in the American Southwest. No, grant denied. I want to study the growing patterns of cedarwood trees in the American Southwest in relation to climate change. Make it rain dollar bill, y'all! And you see that in the numbers. And here's what's so alarming about this. Bill Nye, what is he really saying? Bill Nye does not like science. Bill Nye doesn't want science. Bill Nye is pushing for a pseudo-scientific, quasi-intellectual, religious oligarchy. And I know you'll hear that on YouTube because someone researched the word oligarchy but doesn't know what it means. What does that mean? He means that he only wants people who agree with him to be in power. Keep in mind, this is a guy who, by the way, is okay with jailing climate skeptics. Okay? Feeling scared yet a little bit? That tingle in your nether region? That's fear. That's fear for being jailed because of your thought. And that's something that Bill Nye openly supports. Let's put aside if you agree with his opinion or not. He wants people who agree with his opinion exclusively to be in positions of power, and he wants those people in those positions of power to be able to determine where the finances are directed. Do you have any idea how anti-scientific and how terrifying that is? And if you want to know why that's terrifying, you can look to history as far as the intermingling of politics and science and the absolute leviathan, the monstrous creation that it becomes. It can only, merging politics and science, not allowing them to exist autonomously of each other, can only serve to alter science's trajectory to the path of truth. Okay? That's the main purpose here. And Bill Nye wants that specifically. Some examples? I know it seems tired and old hat, but let's go to Nazi Germany. That's kind of a prime example of political science, as it were, with their eugenics. Racism, cloaked as pseudo-scientific sort of social Darwinism, it became a widely acknowledged set of thoughts, and it led to scientific treaties, books, research projects. It also, of course, led to gassing a few individuals. And here's the thing. Some scientists in Germany were all too happy to accept that funding. The funding was determined. If you believe in the eugenics, you write a research paper on PubMed that the Jews are bad, maybe you wake up with $1 under your pillow. Yes? This happened. If your science was in line with not the Nazis in power, you got the funding. If it wasn't, you didn't get the funding. China, of course, we have situations like China, Eastern Bloc countries. Liberals should love this, where homosexuality was still declared nothing more than a mental disease, and it only has been dropped as recently as the mid-2000s in some of these places. Let's get to Soviet Russia, genetic biology. I don't want to bore you with too many details here, but under Stalin, basically there was a rejection of what we know to be genetic biology in favor of a scientific worldview as determined by the government. The Communist Party ordered the rapid development of more productive varieties of wheat and other important crops. Again, leftists should be thrilled with this. Soviet Russia basically ordered GMOs, but they ordered GMOs in a way that flied in the face of biology, what we knew at that time, and you were excluded from the scientific community unless you lined up with the establishment's belief. The only reason that this trajectory stopped, why, was because their science, which was political, happened to be wrong and led to crop failures and food shortages. So here's something, too, that really concerns me. We know it's unscientific. We know the pitfalls here. Where are he's a bachelor's in mechanical engineering, so we know he's not a scientist. But where are the other scientists speaking up? Kind of like with Islam. We say, where are the Muslims speaking up against the acts of terrorism, not only against terrorism, but against Sharia law, against the way women are allowed to worship in mosques in the United States on equal footing with men? We say, well, where are the rest of the Muslims? Hashtag not all Muslims. What about hashtag not all scientists? Shouldn't scientists, people who respect the scientific process, be out in droves saying, no, listen, we're not Bill Nye? Why is the scientific community not screaming in unison over the hilltop, no, we think that science should exist outside of politics. He's not one of us. It seems because anyone who says that is what excommunicated from the scientific community for not thinking properly. What have we created? We've created a scientific community where not only is groupthink encouraged, depending on who's in political power, it's the only form of thinking allowed.
Yes.
Are you buying
our
this?
Intellect and treasure.
What about you?
But when it comes to climate
Come
change,
on!
that is not
Come
controversial.
on!
And this
Hey, this video is taken as a clip from the full show, Daily Show, at louderwithcrowder.com/mugclub, where it's available exclusively $69 a year. That's less than $6 a month, less than 2 expensive cups of coffee, or you can feed an African child. But why would you want to do? Just buy coffee or join the Mug Club. Daily Show, louderwithcrowder.com/mugclub. See you there. Don't feed children.